When I first became aware of the Lumin product, it was, I think, a first of its kind, or definitely one of the first generation of this intelligent load management.
And so there's a number of reasons you want to do this, but basically with load management, you're trying to, in essence, create a microgrid in the home so that you can manage your loads more efficiently. Smart panel attaches to the existing circuit breaker, and basically we make 12 of the circuits smart.
All right, welcome back to the Solar Surge podcast. Now, if you're new to the Solar Surge podcast, on this program, we meet with the top CEOs and the top thought leaders in the solar and energy storage space. And today we're meeting with Kelly Warner, CEO of Lumin, and we're going to be learning about the Lumin smart panel and really just all about intelligent load management in general. So Kelly, it's really good to meet with you. Welcome to the Solar Surge podcast.
Hey, Joe. Good to meet you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, this is the first time we've really had a chance to talk face to face, or at least on the live call here. So I'm really interested to hear more about your story. Please tell us a little bit more about yourself. How did you get into the renewable industry, and how did you end up partnering up with Lumin?
Sure. Yeah, Joe. So I've been in the energy industry my whole career. It's all I know. And sort of started back in the mid 80s. I did my graduate work at Stanford. And back then, it was all around figuring out how to integrate demand and supply into the whole energy infrastructure. And it's called integrated resource planning. And that's been kind of my whole career has been around that challenge of, how do you compare integrating distributed resources and energy efficiency and solar with a utility building a big power plant, and how do we, manage those diversified loads. So, so my whole career has been really, working on that sort of demand side integration with the electric grid. So first half of my career was all in consulting. I ran a couple of large consulting firms. One of them was Zenergy, which is a pioneer in the demand side management space, and that was acquired by a company named Kima, which is now DNV. And after about 20 years of running large consulting firms, wanted to get back to a little more hands-on activity, and been doing startups and early stage companies since about 2010. So this is maybe my fifth go as a CEO. Previous company was a company named Advanced Microgrid Solutions, AMS. We were virtual power plant pioneers, and that really kind of led into me coming to Lumin. Very similar kind of concept, although at a different scale. AMS, we were doing things at commercial scale. This is at residential scale.
Understood. And yeah, I know, when I first became aware of the Lumin product, it was, I think, a first of its kind, or definitely one of the first generation of this intelligent load management, at the residential level. Tell us a little bit about how did Lumin get started, and why do you think that the market needs this product now at this particular time?
Yeah, so company was founded by my friend and colleague, Alex Bazanov, in 2016. Alex is an amazing guy. He's a Russian immigrant, actually. Went to the Darden Business School at UVA, and we're headquartered in Charlottesville, Virginia, and that's why. And he's a classic entrepreneur. He's got a business background, but started, tinkering around with different ideas and technologies, and came up with this concept of, why have the electric panel in homes been dumb for 100 years when all of this smart automation is taking place. Company has continued on its product development path up until now. We're continuing. And so the concept that's really timely now, one of the reasons I'm really was attracted to Lumin and came here, I've been here almost 2 years now, is really this, this push to put both as we're integrating distributed resources into the whole electricity ecosystem. So basically, we're talking about solar and battery systems into homes, and then allowing this new type of load management to facilitate that process.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, of course, this is a space that I cover, very, very in a very focused manner. Solar and storage, and then all of the other accessories, technologies that help make that work. But for those that aren't as familiar with the space or with the technology as we are, can you explain a little bit about what is a smart panel and why would somebody want to have one?
Sure. So it's a load management tool, and what we do is we control loads at the circuit level in a home. And so there's a number of reasons you want to do this, but basically with load management, you're trying to, in essence, create a microgrid in the home so that you can manage your loads more efficiently and respond to maybe harvesting more solar energy. If you have solar systems, maybe responding to more complex tariffs that the utilities have. The main primary use case we have is integrating solar and batteries into the home. And so with a smart panel like the Lumin Smart Panel, you're able to manage the transition from going on grid to off grid in a much better way than you would if you didn't have a smart panel. So basically, typically the battery is only sized to cover a portion of the loads in the home. Without a smart panel, you basically, when you go onto your battery, you can maybe access 3, 4, 5 of your circuits, like maybe your refrigerator, maybe you want a TV that's running, maybe a couple other things. So it's kind of like a minimum life support system. With a smart panel, you're able to access all the loads in your home. You just can't use them all at the same time. And our software and technology will basically incorporate user preferences for which loads are the most important, and then in real time manage those loads without exceeding the threshold of the battery or the inverter.
Makes sense. And I want to talk more about that later, more detail about how the technology itself works so you can stretch your battery utilization. But that's actually one of the larger trends that I've seen in the industry over the past year is that, solar paired with battery storage is now sort of becoming the norm. I know when I started in the industry, that was not the case. Batteries were very rare, less than 10% of systems. If we're talking about industry-wide, less than 10% of systems were being installed with batteries. Now that has changed, particularly in states like California, some of the larger solar markets where they've lost the net metering. So I guess, Kelly, before we get into the details on how the technology works, what's your take on how the solar market has changed in 2023 and now going into 2024?
Yeah, well, it was a dynamic year. There's some goods and some bads. Certainly interest rates, were a difficult challenge for the solar industry. Basically made the effective costs of the systems, more expensive. But on the other side, the Biden administration's IRA incentives, first of all, secured the 30% ITC going forward, which is a really great thing for the solar industry, and then created a number of other incentives for some of the other balance of plant types of cost to ultimately, make these systems more cost effective. You reference like NEM 3.0 in California has basically, I think, put a bit of a damper on solar sales in the state, but what we're seeing is that storage attachment rates are going way up in response to it. And so there's, in addition to net energy metering, there's also a move by utilities to go to much more complex rates. And so the solar industry is having to respond with technologies that allow the consumers basically to optimize their supply and demand in concert now with these more complex rates and with net metering rules.
Makes sense. So I know the installers are probably feeling most of the brunt of the change, but what are you seeing in terms of your business? Have you had to pivot at all in light of higher attachment rates and changing net metering rules or more complex rate plans?
Well, it's actually, net has been positive for our business. We follow battery attachment rates. So you typically wouldn't have a Lumin smart panel with just a solar installation. It's when you have a battery installation with the solar that we're able to optimize those two things in this sort of home microgrid setting. So, and what you're seeing is that while solar is still growing, it's growing. Its growth rates have dampened last year. Storage growth rates are expanding very rapidly, and so the attachment rates are growing much more. That's been very positive for our business.
That's great. No, I would imagine that. I would imagine that, as solar with storage is becoming the mainstream, having intelligent load management paired with it. I mean, this is one of the things I've said, if you follow the main channel, is that, intelligent load management is one of the ingredients that really can help you have an overall successful implementation. So you're not wasting, a finite amount of battery energy powering loads that you really don't need.
Right.
So, okay. So we're talking about smart panels now. How does your panel work compared to others? Is it a complete replacement of the home's electrical panel, or how does it fit into the mix?
Yeah. So what's different about the Lumin Smart Panel is it attaches to your existing circuit breaker panel, and so the circuit breaker panel is in the home for protection, and so we don't want to touch that or mess with that. We want to leave that circuit breaker panel there. So the Lumin Smart Panel attaches to the existing circuit breaker. And basically, we make 12 of the circuits smart. And so we basically wire in series going up to the breakers, and we pull one wire out and then add another wire back into the Lumin Smart Panel. In the Lumin Smart Panel, we have, there's an onboard computer, there's 12 sensors, and then 12 relays. And so we basically are able to control the loads in real time for each of those 12 circuits. We do it that way because it's a much more cost-effective way to both build the system and then implement it. And the important thing you have to look at when you're thinking of putting in a smart panel in your home is not just the MSRP of the technology, but what's the total installed cost. And Lumin has been very revolutionary in terms of bringing down the total installed cost of the smart panel and making it more cost-effective. I'd also say just the speed with which you're able to install these things. When there's the solar industry is all around truck rolls, and when you're getting out into a home, you want to basically be able to complete your work in a day or even half a day. And so anytime you're having to remove the existing electrical panel, upsize it or whatever, you're probably going to have to deal with the utilities and new interconnects and things like that. And that can really just delay the whole process. So, we like the Lumin Smart Panel. The installers love it because you can get in and out really quick. It's a very straightforward installation and very effective at doing its job.
Yeah, I'm glad you raised that, because that was actually going to be one of my next questions. I know that one of the issues that the installers are dealing with is how to manage solar and storage installations as profitably, as predictably as they've been able to do solar only projects in the past. And so I know a lot of times when you're installing storage, you're basically doing major surgery on the home's electrical system, which can bog you down. And you're absolutely right. The solar industry profitability as a contractor is all about truck rolls and labor requirements and time on site. On that note, how many people are required to install the smart panel, and how, approximately how much time on site to complete an installation?
Yeah, it's really only a couple of hours. And so one thing you have to realize is, so you have a fairly large project going on at the home. So you've got trucks there, you've got electricians and folks with screwdrivers and stuff. So the added level of effort to install the smart panel as part of that is somewhat minimal compared to the overall installation. So I would say 2, 3 hours, maybe depends obviously on the complexity of the project, but fairly straightforward.
That's great. That's great. I mean, I'm looking forward to the day when contractors can literally have, crews doing multiple battery installations per day. And so anything we can do to simplify the installation process, I think is going to be well received, very well received by the installation community.
Yeah, I mean the thing about Lumen, it's really the folks in the company come from the industry, and so we're really fortunate in that we have a lot of technical folks that have been out there installing systems and understand the whole process. And I think it's been designed with that process in mind of like, hey, how are the folks in the field really going to be impacted by the designs of our product and things like that. So it's not really built by just engineers thinking about, well, wow, what cool things can we do, but really about how do we build a better mousetrap in terms of helping, with this migration towards solar plus storage.
Great, great. Well, let's get into details now. I'm curious what functions that the Smart Panel offers. So what are the key features? First off, what are the key features that the Smart Panel offers?
So, well, as I said, so the Lumen Smart Panel, if you open it up, there's an onboard computer, and there's a variety of sensors and relays that control the loads at the circuit at the circuit level. And so, what it's doing is really orchestrating the consumption within the house. So, the first part of our value proposition is really by doing this, we can reduce the cost of installing a solar and battery system in the home. In some cases, people are putting multiple batteries in to try to extend, the amount of storage capacity they have. By using load management in an intelligent way, you can minimize the amount of storage you need to basically do the same effective job. From the homeowner's perspective, so we have a really cool app, and we provide the homeowner with a lot of consumption information that they can use then to optimize their use. But we also allow them to prioritize the various circuits in their home that they are controlling. And so when they go to either their off-grid mode or whatever, they're able to access and have access to the loads that they've prioritized. And so it's a very interactive process in that way. And as I said, in the future, there's a move in the utility industry to go to much more complex rates. And so the Lumen system is really kind of a set it and forget it type load management system, in that you're able to prioritize your loads, put in your preferences. In this case, it could be schedules, like if you're on a time of use rate that you say, all right, I want to, lock out my my water heater during the high peak rate times, or I want to not be charging my car during the day, or I'll do it at night. So you can program all those things, and it will just automatically manage those loads for you.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, because I think when we talk about load management now, there's really two main use cases. One is emergency backup power, conserve battery life,
Mm-hmm.
Turn off or limit usage of high draw non-critical items. And then the other use case is what you just described, is with these more complex rate schedules, wanting to avoid heavy loads running during peak rate hours. Like you mentioned, the water heater, for example. Like if there's a certain hour or 3 hour block of the day, let's say, where you have a highest electric rates, there's no reason to run your electric water heating element during that time. But the other thing I see sometimes, though, Kelly, is how homeowners want to manage when they have excess solar production, wanting to power loads, or wanting to run the water heater, or maybe wanting to run the electric vehicle charger when they have excess solar, so they don't have to dump it back to the utility at a discounted rate. Can your system be used in that scenario as well?
Uh, Yes, I mean basically by managing the loads in an optimum way, you're going to be able to, optimize the economics of your, like, for example, with net metering or whatever, versus, you know, using the solar power natively directly to power your house versus shipping it back to the utility. So I think as this paradigm increases, you're going to see more smart devices like smart water heaters, for example, that would have a threshold of temperature set points that would allow you to, say, raise the temperature in the water heater higher. And obviously there would be limits to where you're going to go with that, but to harvest a little bit more solar power than you normally would.
Excellent. 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 So what other information can the homeowner access then on the app?
So you get very high resolution information about your total consumption, and you would get circuit level data on your appliance consumption, and even, and this is sort of down the product development path, you get really fine insights into equipment health and how it's operating. When you start looking at, we're measuring loads in 15,000 times a second. So to create the power curve, and that's the kind of information you can start looking at. Do I have a potential issue with the compressor or things like that? So there's a very rich data set associated with the smart panel that we're giving our customers access to.
Cool. Now, I know one of the questions a lot of folks out there are going to be asking is, okay, now let's say we're in a grid down scenario. What if internet service is down as well, or cell phone service is down? Does that mean they lose access to control the unit, or how would that work?
No. So what's different between the Lumin system and like a lot of the smart home systems is that so it all the intelligence is running locally. So that's why I stress that there's this onboard computer within the box. So the internet goes down, it continues to operate, based on the settings that are put in there, and will manage the loads just as it always would. It's basically wired. The loads are directly wired to the control systems. We do access the internet to backload the data up to the cloud to our NOC, which is behind me here, and then we provide usage data and other information to the consumer through the cloud. But the basic operations are all local and work in an islanding mode, even if the internet is down.
Excellent.
And if the power is down also, it's still, would be running on the battery. Okay.
And now, speaking of batteries, which battery systems or which inverters is Lumin compatible with at this point?
Yeah, so it's kind of the way we've designed it. Lumin is universally compatible with any electric system in the U.S., and we've designed it that way. And there's a real push, Joe, on energy equity, and that solar and storage isn't just for the rich folks, but let's get it across kind of middle America. And Lumin is really designed to plays well in that setting because we can retrofit any system, any panel, and so we can also integrate or manage loads with any battery system. So we're not limited to specific battery types. We have also have now direct integrations with SolarEdge and Enphase batteries that we can manage state of charge of the battery. So as the battery is starting to deplete, we can start shedding more loads to preserve the remaining storage capacity of the battery. And we'll continue to integrate with other batteries in that regard.
Okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, you can work with pretty much any battery triggered on whether grid is up or grid is down. But in the case of SolarEdge and Enphase, you actually can read specific battery percentage, battery state of charge, and you can then trip based on that number as well. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Great.
The basic function we're doing is when you're going onto battery is to manage the whole home loads within the capacity rating of the inverter or the battery. That's the primary function. But then when you have a more, we have an API integration with a particular battery like SolarEdge or Enphase, that we're actually measuring the state of charge and can start adjusting loads based on the current state.
Cool. One of the things that we see, just kind of looking big picture industry trends for 2023 going into 2024, one of the things I've noticed is there does seem to be this push, even from companies like SolarEdge and Enphase, to kind of get everything on their ecosystem, including some of their own load control solutions. Although I don't think either of them has a smart panel, they have some of these individual load control devices. Mm-hmm. But do you see any issue in terms of compatibility working with companies like SolarEdge and Enphase that are sort of trying to get everything on their ecosystem as opposed to being more interoperable?
No, I mean, there's other products out there, and I think there is a push. First of all, Lumin, we're really built around partnerships. So you may have seen we just signed a big partnership with ABB, just signed a partnership last year with Sonova. And so we're geared, we want to be working with all these different technologies and players. We're not trying to create our own proprietary ecosystem that, Lumin only works with kind of Lumin systems. And that's another thing that's pretty unique about us. And I humbly say we do it better than anyone else. We have this philosophy of control what matters, and we're really managing the big loads, the 240 volt loads in the home, and we do a really great job of that. We're always talking to our colleagues at other companies, and they will say they have this, they have their own version of the system, but we feel we're best in class, and we can still work with all of these different technologies out there, and then the market's going to decide which ones get selected.
As a tech guy, to me, this feels a lot like the late 90s, early 2000s, where you had, in the computing world, you had sort of the proprietary community like Apple and Microsoft, and then you had sort of the open source community where there are people that think, hey, everything should be open, everything should be interoperable. I feel like the same thing is kind of going on in solar right now, where you have, on the one hand, folks that believe in the advantages of everything on one proprietary platform, and then others like yourself that believe in open and interoperable systems that play nice with each other. Do you see standards emerging to where we have, let's say, an open inverter battery protocol as opposed to having to integrate with each manufacturer specifically? Or how do you see things going in that respect?
I could see it certainly going that way. Yeah. I mean, I think, first of all, I mean, the industry is growing very rapidly and new products are coming out all the time. There certainly are standards, UL standards and others in terms of that are guiding the industry and the development of these things. But we'll see where it goes. I don't have a crystal ball any better than yours, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's interesting to follow all this. So, of course, we'll be keeping up with the industry and where things are going. On that note, I know you and I will both be at the Solar and Storage Live conference coming up in Philadelphia in a few weeks. I'm curious, why did you choose to invest and to be an exhibitor at that event?
Yeah, we're a gold sponsor, so we're psyched about it. We think it's a great event, and yeah, I mean, part of it is we want to get the word out more about how Lumin benefits the solar and battery ecosystem. It's still that's kind of one of our big marketing challenges. Just really our making sure that the key decision makers out there, mainly the installers, and understand the value proposition of this technology. Because it's an add-on technology. And so the main competitors do nothing, which we think is just an inferior system. So it's a great venue for us to be able to show off our technologies and our value proposition.
Great. Well, we look forward to connecting with you at the event there as well. And of course, we'll be set up doing podcast interviews there on the floor, as well as with interviewing and covering a number of the other exhibitors there. But even the idea of having a solar and storage conference, I think just how it's framed and titled indicates kind of where we are in the industry. That storage with solar is now mainstreaming, and contractors. I talked to some contractors; they don't yet fully grasp the opportunity with batteries, but even the large ones seem to understand that if they don't get on board with battery storage and solar, that they're going to sort of be left behind.
Oh, without a doubt. And I think, to the move towards more finance solution, third-party ownership solutions, the whole package solution with solar, a battery, and then a load management system, that just really is, I think, going to be kind of the hallmark of the industry moving forward. And there's so much support from that, both at the just the industry level. The cost of storage is just coming way down, as well as various incentives and policies. And this is really becoming more part of this modernized electric grid and this move towards electrification.
Yep. Well, I'm excited. And of course, we'll be continuing to cover the space and the technology. But I mean, as a guy that started doing this 12 years ago using golf cart batteries and forklift batteries and systems that looked very much like a high school science experiment, to see where it's come now with nice aesthetically packaged battery products, intelligent load management, easy to use apps for the homeowner. It's really, really amazing to see how we've come in the past decade here. So. Kelly, as we have a few minutes left here, is there anything else that you'd like to share with the audience about Lumin or about solar and storage in general?
Well, it's kind of an open-ended question, but no, we're very excited about the future. Lumin, we have a pretty robust product pipeline in terms of new products that are coming out. This whole move towards electrification in the energy industry, the real challenge is how is the electric grid going to hold up to all of these new electric appliances that are going to be coming online? The big one is EV charging. Any of the studies you look at, you're talking about massive price tags for having to upgrade the electric grid in response to these things. And then you have other areas, states that are really encouraging fuel switching from gas to electric, and how you're going to fit in a new heat pump water heater or switching from a gas furnace to a heat pump, and without having to spend tens of thousands of dollars upgrading the electric system on the customer side and on the utility, the distribution side. So all of these load management devices and batteries and other generation sources like solar, they're all part of that electrification movement. And Lumin is going to be really out there at the forefront in terms of, helping the industry figure out how to do that in a cost-effective and equitable manner.
Excellent. Well, it's certainly an exciting time. It's really never a dull moment in the solar industry, but I think really, really an exciting time as storage and load management is coming into maturity and coming into the mainstream. Folks, again, this has been a chat with Kelly Warner, CEO of Lumin and Lumin Smart Panel. Kelly, I really thank you for taking time to chat with our audience today, and I look forward to catching up with you in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I really appreciate you, Joe. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely. Well, folks, that pretty much does it for today's episode. As always, I'm Joe Ordia here, encouraging you to get prepared and be empowered. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode.